You know, and Muslims should be intentional about influence and power. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, the U.S. Constitution takes for granted that America is made up of different groups vying for influence and power. That's, I mean, that's kind of the, that's the understanding of like, that's what this country is. And we should be unapologetic. And it doesn't mean that, you know, we're, doesn't mean that we want to have any unneighborly relationships with our neighbors, but we should be very clear about the fact, my goal here is to make the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the highest. Doesn't mean that we're doing that by any kind of cheap proselytizing like Jehovah's Witnesses. No. But I want to live this religion in a way that is so beautiful and so compelling that people ask me, hey, what y'all believe? What y'all doing? And I want to be able to say to them, hey, just come in. Just come in and have a look. It's open. Come on in. It's not like we in here, man, we're not Masons. This is not a secret society that we in here cloak and dagger and, you know, we got some kind of secret rituals and nobody. Just open the door, come on in. This message is for you. And when we adopt policies and even rulings like that, it makes it feel to me like we don't have a sense of mission as a man. What is our mission, man? Now Muslims can't come in the mission. Okay, what is our mission? What are we like? What are we here to do? You know, I remember Sheikh Amin Khalwadia. He was talking to us one morning about Iftah, giving fatwa. And I was telling him that, you know, I was in Ireland, man. I was on Aer Lingus flight coming from Abu Dhabi to Dublin to Chicago. And when we arrived in Dublin, Ireland, man, it was like 4:30 a.m. and a few of the little breakfast places in the airport were just opening. And I saw a guy with a beer, a Guinness. Guinness is black as your turban, man. A lager with some eggs, just eating that for breakfast. And I remember saying to myself, damn, Irish people really like drinking. You know what I'm saying? You know, I remember saying to myself, that's just like OJ for him, you know, like, you know, eggs and, you know, little OJ eggs and little Guinness. And I was telling Sheikh Amin, I said, you know, if somebody gave dawah to a community of Irish people and they embraced Islam in community, you might have to take them through those Quranic stages. Like first, just don't come to prayer drinking, you know. Then, like, you know, just like the Prophet did with the Quraysh, you might not be able to give them the whole thing at one time because they're so committed to drinking. And then he said to me, he said, no, we don't have the right to tell people that something Allah has made haram is halal, right? If it's haram, it's haram. However, the da'i or the person calling them to Islam, the murabbi, the person rearing them in Islam, could choose not to mention. We're not even going to talk about alcohol right now. Right? We're not even going to talk about that. Let's just talk about Allah. Let's just focus on that. And he said, this is what we call a minhaj tarbawi, minhaj nabawi. This is a prophetic way. And I remember thinking, so much of what we do is based on fiqh, but we don't have a minhaj tarbawi, like we don't have a mission. It's kind of like if you have a mission, your fiqh serves that mission. So a person might say like there's a ruling, and we may say, no, that's not, you know, if it's not something from the usul of deen, like that can't be, we're gonna take a different position on this because this is more consistent with our mission. We have a mission here, right? This is more consistent with our mission. And I feel like in the United States of America, one of the things that hurts our Muslim community, we don't have a mission. What's the mission? This is why a person can shut down any meeting with one hadith. We having a meeting about what we should do, what our priorities are. Person give one hadith, that's it, the meeting is over. It's over. He mentioned one hadith, it's over. That's it. There's no more, nothing else to talk about. Whereas if we had a sense of mission, and our mission was based on the fundamentals of the Quran and Sunnah, we could say, wait a second, now I understand that's a position that now Muslims can't come in the masjid. How does that serve our mission? Now, and what's tripped out about it,
That's just
look, and not only that, and listen, and this is what's tripped out about it, is that I remember the same masjid, a police officer, non-Muslim, walked right up in there. And I was waiting for Brother Mikael to sit at the front, tell her to get out. He didn't say nothing. He didn't answer the question. And I said, wait a minute, she not Muslim? She the police. So when there's a tangible benefit that you recognize, not bringing unwanted attention to the masjid from law enforcement, that's a tangible benefit. Then you recognize, okay, we have to, even though this is our position, the position has to be put to the side for right now, because we're trying to secure the safety of the Muslims, our right to practice deen. We want to be able to come to masjid. We don't want to bring any unwanted heat to the masjid. So my question is, why isn't exposing somebody who isn't Muslim to Islam as much as a benefit as that? Man, don't you realize, man, if you were to save one, if one person comes into the masjid and says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, that will be worth whatever you were trying to protect and not letting now Muslims come to the masjid. Now you mentioned the haram, you're right. The haram has that ruling, but none of the other masajid have that ruling.
Like, person in the house or something, that person can
Yeah. And then, and the most hypocritical thing is at the end of the khutbah, at the end of the Jummah, he says, is there anybody here who wants to become Muslim? Now, I'm not the smartest man in the world. I've never claimed to be. But if you don't allow non-Muslims in the masjid, how can there be anybody there who wants to become Muslim? I mean, this is just, and again, I respect the man. I used to actually have the imam in a few little sessions that I used to do. He's a knowledgeable man. He's a sensible man. I just don't, it's just one of those rulings that I don't understand. And I can't for the life of me understand. Yeah, it was Mikael. For the life of me, I can't understand what tangible goal that was served. One of the things that I learned in my study of some of those difficult chapters of Islamic law, like the book of jihad. Jihad, it was refreshing to study jihad. I forgot the book today, so we're just having an open conversation. It was refreshing to study jihad because you know what I learned in studying jihad? That Muslims never said, we've shown them to the battlefield to be killed and become martyrs. Never. There is always some practical, tangible benefit to be gained in fight. Martyrdom is what is gained. If one is killed in battle, then you become a shaheed. But that's never the goal. So it's never excusable for a person to say, look, we don't have a mission. If Allah wants to make somebody Muslim, he will. We just obey Allah. That's never, Sufyan al-Thawri, famous tabi'ah, follower of the companions. He said, "At-tashaddud yuhsinu al-jami'a." Being strict, anybody can do that. Like, you don't need any knowledge to be strict, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alimun wahidun ashaddu ala shaytani min alfi abid." The Prophet said, one scholar is harder on shaitan than 1,000 worshipers. And he used the word abid, min alfi abid. Now, the abid is a person of great piety, right? There's nothing any of us aspire to be that is higher than an abid, one who is steeped in her servitude to Allah. But the Prophet said, one scholar is harder on shaitan than 1,000 people steeped in their servitude to Allah. The question I pose, why? Why? Because, this is the explanation given by many, the scholar knows the priorities. The scholar knows, whereas the abid is probably always going to do the strictest thing. Whatever's the strictest thing, that's what she's going to do. Whatever the strictest opinion is, that's what he's going to take. That's not always the best thing to do. See, the knowledgeable person knows what are our priorities? What is our mission? What are we trying to do? In that same statement, Sufyan said, وَلَكِنَّ الْعِلْمَ knowledge تَتَبُعُ الرُّخَص مُسْتَنِدًا إِلَى الدَّلِيلِ. Knowledge is finding legitimate basis in the Quran and Sunnah for what we need to do. That's knowledge. That's what knowledge does. How do we find legitimacy to do what needs to be done here, right? Who knows the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ well enough to find the basis to follow his seerah. And I'm thinking, when I hear a ruling like that, you do realize that the Prophet's entire mission was to teach people about Allah. That's all. Like, everything else was incidental to that. وَمَا بُعِثْتُ إِلَّا أَنْ أُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent to perfect noble traits of character. Everything else is incidental to that. The establishment of Medina, the establishment of all of the masajid, all of that is incidental to teaching people about Allah and His Messenger. How do we adopt a position as a community that prevents people from coming into the masjid to learn about Allah and His Messenger? Now, this is where I start questioning our follow-through. If you're really serious about that, if you are a person that is like, yo, I really believe in my heart of hearts that it is impermissible for a non-Muslim to come into the masjid, but I recognize the priority of inviting people to Islam and our sense of mission as a community. Why wouldn't you develop some adjacent building, something connected, right? Some place where they can come and just have a seat, but does not violate the prayer space according to your position. I really think, man, when I hear things like that, I don't know what's up. That's all I say. When somebody says something like that, I'm thinking, okay, what's the goal here? Really, what's the goal here? Is the goal to repulse people? The goal, the Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, rigorously authenticated, Yassiru wa la tu'assiru. Make things easy for people and don't make things difficult. And then he said, Bashiru wa la tunaffiru. Invite to Islam and don't repel people, right? Which doesn't mean we don't have principles, we don't have parameters, we don't have, lines that we can't, transgress. But if we're doing something and we see it turning people off, that should at least give us pause. Is there a different way to do this? If people say, man, I can't stand going to that masjid. No, really, it's interesting, man. And this is something that all religious people have to be very careful of. You have to respect the integrity of people. People have integrity, especially people within the community. They have integrity. So if you have a position and people of faith feel like they don't like this, for you to say all of them are wrong, none of them know anything about Allah and His Messenger. Their deed, all of them have a watered down Islam. I'm the only person standing on the truth. Sometimes I'm thinking, how are you comfortable even saying that? If I tell you, man, a significant number of people of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam they find something that you're doing disagreeable, and there's flexibility in the Sharia, why wouldn't you take a different position? Why would you take a different? Because you don't respect these people. You think they're all backsliders. None of them know anything about deen. None of them really want to worship Allah. None. You're the only one. It's. I'm not talking about the Imam Fazil, but in many cases, there's. Yeah, I'm sorry. In many cases, there's a narcissistic tendency there. You see, I'm worshiping Allah. All of the rest of the people, what are they doing? I don't know. They're just playing. SubhanAllah. What a shaitanic idea. Just you, huh? Just me. Me and my, there's a joke that I forget who told me this joke, but they said that this guy embraced Islam and everybody was hugging him. They gave him the microphone and said, anything you want to say? He said, man, I'm just happy. All my life, I've been searching for the community of truth, and I found it. They said shortly after that, somebody came up to him and said, not everybody in this community is on the truth. He said, it's really just Muslims in this country that are really on it. That's where I'm from. It's really just Muslims from here that's really on it. So they say in his zeal, he flew to that country. In the masjid, he prayed. They noticed he was new. You new here. Gave him the microphone. And I'm just happy to be with the people of truth. Right? They said, somebody said, not everybody in this country is on the truth. Not everyone. It's really just people in this masjid. They're really on it. He went to the masjid. I'm just happy to be with the people of the truth. He said, somebody came up to him and said, not everybody in this masjid is on the truth. It's really just me and the muaddin. And I have some doubts about his aqidah. It's like, look, you made a very vast thing constricted. And you have to think about people who believe like it's just a strange way of, it's a strange idea. I'm telling you, man, look, it's like if I come to somebody and I tell them, hey man, the Muslims don't, اتقي بصيرة المؤمن فإنه ينظر بنور الله. Fear the inside of the Muslim because she sees with the sight of God. He sees with the sight of God. I'm telling you, the Muslims don't like this. Right? That should give you some pause, man. The Muslims don't like this, huh? If you respect the Muslim community, say, hey man, Muslims don't like this. They don't like this. They don't like this.
I don't have to do that. When our son came to his house, the vehicle catch us back. So we end up in this crash. Just still talking to the girl. Now the girl never had no problems, right? When we come talk to her, we have a cross on, we had a treatment.
Wow, interesting combination.
Yeah, so now we look there, don't write shit in pain. This is a memorial will be my son. And we still live with the cross. Everybody, you see, you have and then I want to put it out. So he said, well, we know it's two. And like you should do. I see.
Man, look, man, I'm gonna tell you, man. It's I guess I'm telling jokes today, man. But other joke, man, I love this joke, man. They said it was two brothers on the street. And they homeless, man, they trying to get some food. And they walk past the masjid. And one of them said, you know, I spent some time in prison, so he was familiar with Islam. They said, hey, yo, man, we go in this mosque and pretend like we Muslim. They'll give us some food. So he said, his partner say, nah, man, we can go in the mosque, but I'm just gonna be real. I ain't gonna pretend like I'm nothing that I'm not. I ain't about to play with God, man. I am what I am. So, you know what I mean? If you want to pretend like you Muslim, you go ahead. He was like, nah, man, you got to pretend like you Muslim because they might not want to take care of you if you ain't Muslim. They take care of their own. That's how they are. You know? He was like, look, man, you do you and I'll do me. Right? So they went in, and the brother went in, you know, Shalaikum Shalom, you know what I'm saying? Shalaikum Shalom. Just seeing if y'all had some charitable contributions for y'all brothers that's out here. You know, I'm, you know, a Muslim. My friend is not, you know, yet. You know, I'm working on him still. But, you know, maybe you could take care of him because, you know, he's with me, you know. And said the Imam said, mashallah, brothers, go downstairs and make his friend a plate of food for everything that we had last night and dessert. Make sure he's well fed. Brothers, go downstairs. And he said, what about me, sir? He said, Ramadan Mubarak. Stop, you know, stop fronting, you know what I mean? Stop fronting, stop playing games, you know what I'm saying? Just be what you are, man. We go Ramadan, you know what I'm saying? You know, well, I ain't embraced Islam yet, you know what I'm saying? Let's go back to flip, you know, just be what you are. You know, people should never feel that somehow, you know, of course, man, we have, I think like all people, we have a special love for the people of Iman. I do. I can't pretend like there's a special love we have for people of Iman. But our da'wah is to serve everybody. That you're not going to get, you're not going to be denied anything in our presence because you haven't embraced Islam. You know, the Muslims, man, they used to take better care of their prisoners of war than we do of our neighbors. You know, these are people who are just fighting against Islam and the da'wah of Islam. They would take better care of them than we do of our neighbors. So the idea that I mean, you know, yeah, I think I don't know. We got to get back to that. By the way, I forgot the book today, man. So we open session. I had the book in a different part of the house because for this month, Celebrate Mercy is also doing the Shemad. And it was excellent. When they asked me, they said, can you do some sessions? I said, sure, I'm already mid-stride, you know, and I presented with Nancy Tamara Gray. She did two hadith, and I did two hadith last Wednesday. And when I was presenting, you know, I was just flowing so smoothly. People were like, man, you're really familiar. I'm like, we've been doing this for like the last 2 years. So, yeah, and we actually, the hadith they selected for me were hadith that we already covered. So I just going to say like we've been doing this for a while. But I mean, you read through those like English. I said, you've been doing these for a while, mashallah. So I had the book in a different part of the house. So any questions, ideas? Yes, sir.
Right. Just one cover. Where's your favorite part of that? And where's some things that
Man, you know, man, I really love the entire Shema al-Muhammadiyah. I think that it's a unique book of hadith. It's unique. Imam al-Tirmidhi was a master of hadith. He was one of the most original collectors and authenticators of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And he himself said concerning this book, this was a different kind of book for him. You know, this was really an act of love. And a lot of people don't realize a hadith collector has a very strange kind of power and authority. Because Imam al-Bukhari is not speaking for the Prophet ﷺ, but he is selecting of all of the hadith that are a part of the hadith corpus. Bukhari is selecting what he wants to, and he's putting that in his collection, right? He's giving these particular traditions this endorsement in terms of their authenticity, in terms of like a lot of people have pointed out, like in critical Islamic studies departments in US universities, Bukhari is not without fiqh. Like he's probably going to choose, if you look at they say Bukhari was Shafi'i in his fiqh. So he's going to choose hadith that support the positions of his madhab, right? So a hadith collector has a certain kind of authority. In this book, Imam at-Tirmidhi deliberately chose the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that would give the readers, the listeners, the fullest, most endearing portrait of the Prophet ﷺ. So the entire title of the book is Shama'il Muhammadiyya wa Khisla Mustafawiyya. So it is the personal aspects and traits of the Prophet Muhammad and the Khisla. Khisla is like the special feature, the special feature of Al-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Imam at-Tirmidhi said, this book, if you have this book in your home, if you have studied this book in its entirety, from the beginning to the end, it is like you have the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your home with you. Meaning, now he's a master of hadith. He knows many hadith that he didn't include in this book. But if you read this book, no one can say you don't know the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. If you studied this book, when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, in a very comprehensive way, I know something about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. I know who I'm talking about. When I say Muhammadur Rasulullah, I know who I'm talking about. I know who I'm referring to, right? I've studied these 400 some odd hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, all of them authentic, all of them from narrators that were chosen because of their closeness to the Prophet ﷺ, very comprehensive understanding of his lifestyle, his humility, his laughter, his gatherings, his home life. Like, this is what it means to know someone. And whenever I think about the Shama'il, I think, I can't, and this is for me a proof of the prophethood of Muhammad ﷺ. I can't think of anybody's life who's been studied like that. I don't know anyone's life. Now, some people have very detailed biographies, but that a person has gone dimension by dimension, aspect by aspect, collecting first-person accounts. No, I don't. Who is there any other? Even Jesus, alayhi salam, peace be upon him. You look at the Gospels, especially the canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. These are usually second or third person accounts of people, giving vignettes, biographical accounts of the Christ, alayhi salam, never claiming to have met him, not saying that they witnessed anything. And then when you go and you do the chains, we don't know who they even heard it from. Most Christians say that the entire spirit was overseen by the entire process was overseen by the Holy Spirit. That's how they explain it. So for us to have hadith chains, every single aspect of the physical description, the lifestyle, the laughter, when the hadith that really blows me away, he had 17 gray hairs in his beard. He had 17 gray hairs in his beard. I'm like, subhanAllah. They had this sense that they were in the presence of living prophethood. And they wanted to get close to it. they wanted to observe it, they wanted to see it. So when you come to that hadith of Salman al-Farisi, when the Prophet ﷺ had that piece of skin that protruded on his back, that was mentioned as being a physical characteristic of the last messenger. And Salman said that it was like the size of a dove's egg. Salman said he wanted to see it. And he said the Prophet ﷺ removed his rida, his cloak, so that he could see it. You know, it's this amazing kind of aware, like the Prophet ﷺ knows who he is, and they also know who he is. And that transmission is what I think makes this book really incredible. You know, I was listening to one, if my tweed jacket hasn't given me away, I'm a nerd. But I was listening to one literature professor, and he said something that I thought was really instructive when studying the Shama'il. He said, when you read good love poetry, it's not only that the poet loves his or her muse, they also have to love poetry. This is what makes the poetry. They have to love the person that they're writing about, and they have to love poetry. In the case of the Prophet ﷺ, you're reading the Shama'il, these are people that love the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and they love talking about him. That's why these hadith are so profound. They love him, and you can tell they love talking about him. So when you read the way some of these hadith were collected, you know, my great-grandfather told me, come here, I'm going to tell you something that if you keep this, you'll never go astray. He just started describing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I want you to ask, how is that a source of God? He didn't say, Allah said this, Allah said that, do this. He just started describing the Prophet alaihi wasallam. That if you understand who this person was, if you understand how he was, you'll never go astray. You'll know why you have to adhere to his way. And you'll know what it means to be on his path. Right? Exclusively. Even though there are myriad paths, there's a lot of different paths, but what does it mean to have a Muhammadan path? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, this is what I think is very special about the Shama'il. And it's one of those books that it's been studied. You know, what I love about this is that this is no modernist, you know, apologist description of the Prophet ﷺ. This is classic. And there had been parts of it that were difficult for us, that we had to kind of get to what's being said here, right? So there's an authenticity. This is not like me trying to redefine the message of Allah for a 21st century audience to make them, to ingratiate the Prophet ﷺ to them and removing everything about his armor or his battles or his sword. This is, we're teaching this book, inshallah, with some integrity. Like this is how it's always been taught. And one of the things you guys might find interesting is that there were Muslim soldiers in the golden ages of Islam that when they would fight, inside of their, armor, they would actually have hadith from the Shama'il. SubhanAllah. That's what they would have with them, right? They would have hadith from the Shama'il, right? That the thing that they wanted to be closest to when death was imminent was the description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's just something to think about, man. Something to think about. Now, we don't mean that in like a shirky way, or the shirk, Allah is God. Right? We don't mean this kind of shirky, I see that look on some of your faces. Like, we worship Allah. Now, of course we worship Allah. Of course we worship Allah. But, I really feel like in our time, we have to, what we're fighting to vindicate is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this Muhammadan way. Because all of the attacks on Islam are going to come in that direction. Islam is misogynistic. Islam is sexist. Islam is warmongering. Islam is violent. Islam is, everything that they say about Islam, we will end up dispelling through highlighting the prophetic example. No, that's not true. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't like that. No, that's not true. That's not true. Islam does not condone violence against women. The Prophet ﷺ, Aisha said in the Shama'il, he never struck anybody with his hand if he wasn't fighting in the way of Allah. Not a woman, not a servant, not a child, not an animal. Now, who's practicing Islam better than that? You see, this is why we're studying. This is why it's like, no, well, anything you say about our Islam, we have this. No. If there's a better example of what Islam was than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who? How? So I really feel like in our time, it is the Shama'il that is going to fortify our Iman and defend us against the claims of people that want to tear Islam down. And you have to understand, there are people who really want to tear Islam down. Like I really don't like that kind of us-them rhetoric. That's not my thing. It's not. I never talk like that. But for real, like there are people, يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم. Allah Ta'ala says they want to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths, right? ولكن الله يتم نوره, but Allah will complete His light and perfect it, right? I really feel that there are people that as soon as they see a Muslim, it just angers them. It makes them angry, because I think Muslims are maybe the last holdout against complete secularization of the world. You know, I think we're one of the last communities for whom religion still has social relevance. You have lots of spiritual communities, but a lot of those spiritual communities have given up. They're monks. They're people that want nothing to do with the world. Like we're practicing our faith, and we want nothing to do with the dunya is cursed. you know. Sometimes I look at them and think maybe they know something we don't know. You know, you have a lot of people that are withdrawn from the dunya is cursed. We don't care anything about the dunya, right? We just want to do our devotions. The dunya is cursed. We're one of the last communities that you have a significant number, a significant percentage of that community that will fast in the month of Ramadan. Like, that's still very significant. That even if it's 50%, in the modern world, that's, and I actually think it might be closer to 60, 65% of Muslims that like will give up their food, drink, sexual activity during the daylight hours for an entire month. It's really phenomenal, right? To think about that level of religious commitment that still remains in our community. And you have some people that they're angered by that. They're frustrated by that. You know, they're frustrated by that. And, whenever they're talking about toxic religiosity, backwards religiosity, silly religiosity, they're always talking about Islam. They're not talking about anything else. They're talking about Islam. Right? These uncivilized people. Right? And that's why, I've been following very closely what's happening in Iran. And heartbreaking. And it should open a lot of very important dialogue within our community. But we should also be very careful of people who would use an issue like that to dismantle Islam, to publicly discredit Islam. You know what I'm saying? Which doesn't mean that we don't have to address what happened in that hideous case of a woman being murdered by morality police. But we should be very careful of not allowing our voices to be co-opted into something that we don't even, you can find yourself on the stage with people saying things that you're like, wait a minute, that's not my, wait a second, you know what I mean? Wait, that's not my position. That's not not my position. You know what I'm saying? You have to be very careful because people are eager. You know, a person told me, I'm trusting them. Trusting them. Person told me, man, if you are an articulate, halfway attractive, telegenic Muslim woman, and you want to become a millionaire, just start denouncing Islam in public. Just start talking about the patriarchal horrors that you've experienced as a Muslim, and your fame will skyrocket. You can become a millionaire like that. Just like that. Person said, if you're halfway articulate, halfway decent looking, telegenic Muslim woman that is willing to make full-throated denunciations of Islam on television and on your social media, you will be catapulted to world status. World status. Catapulted, like person instantaneous. All you have to do is be willing to go for it. And I think that the fact that more people in our community haven't done that, in spite of even what they might be going through with their personal faith, I'm not going to allow you to say the Muslims are all creeps and all perverts and all sick. No, that's not true. Even I know Muslims that have lost faith say that's not true. I can't let you say that about my people. That's not true. These are incredibly decent people. These are loving mothers, loving fathers, loving husbands, loving wives, people of faith, people of community, people that are great humanists, people that love animals. This isn't true what you're saying. But if you're willing to wholesale demonize Islam, you can become famous just like that. Right? Because they want that voice. Right? Where are the Muslims that are willing to just lambast Islam? We're looking for them. Right? So when you have Muslims that, are still holding on, still practicing, even now, sometimes I really admire, Muslim women that know that their colleagues think all kinds of crazy things about Islam and them. Like, who go into work every day, do their jobs, right? Don't hide the fact that they're Muslim, knowing that people probably think I'm stupid, they think I'm oppressed, they think I'm crazy, they think I'm backwards. That's a lot to carry, man. And only Allah knows the reward that we're getting for that, man. Just holding on, man. The Prophet ﷺ said at the end of time, maintaining one's Islam will be like holding on hot coals. That's a prophecy. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's a prophecy that and I think this is my own interpretation. Part of that coal being so hot, it's not just the disbelievers, it's the Muslims. That's what I think. I think you see Muslims and you think, no, like that, no. No way. I think that's what's making the coals so hot. They blew up a school with mostly teachers and kids in the name of Deen in Afghanistan. No, I can't. Somebody went into a clinic and detonated themselves and killed a bunch of Muslim kids and women in the name of Deen. No, that can't be my religion. It can't be. Can't be. Can't be. I was talking to a brother, man, he said the most challenged he had ever been in his faith was not anything that Christopher Hitchens said, Richard Dawkins, or, Sam Harris. Somebody sent him a video of Boko Haram. And it was some woman that was accused of something, and they decapitated this woman on camera, cut her head off. He thought, this is pure evil. He said, man, I've never seen anything more vile and disgusting in all my life. And the fact that the people that did it were saying Allah's name. Oh my God. He said, man, that jammed me up for a couple of weeks. Some of that hot coals, man, it's gonna be Muslim. You see things, you think, nah, there's no way. And here we are, man, still trying to hold on. It's really, I mean, look, I'm black, man. I hear somebody running, I might start running. What? Hey, what you running for? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But, you know, and here we are, still trying to hold. Okay, Bismillah. Okay, I'm gonna say Bismillah. Amen. Love. Some, you know, because, hey, man, you know, one thing, you know, I want to say, man, I respect all of you tremendous. Because, you know, I think sometimes when we just come into the masjid, we're so lax in terms of security. It takes a lot of just trust in Allah and faith. You know, I mean, you've had some crazy stuff, you know, people coming in masjid doing crazy stuff, but
That never occurred to me, thank you.
yeah, but no, man. La ilaha illallah, man. We're still trying to hold out, and especially those of us that find ourselves in kind of the middle of trying to maintain that this tradition is a tradition of mercy, it's a tradition of love, it's a tradition of peace, and it is all of those things with integrity. We're not just saying, you know, what do we have to say that so that the modern world will accept us? What do I have to say so that, you know, that we're trying to say that this is what Islam really is. And yeah, I mean, it's a blessed struggle, man. You know, if you know, I think sometimes you have to kind of tap into the part of you that loves stories, loves film. You think about, you know, our little embattled community trying to hold on to the truth. We got Muslims that make Islam look crazy. You got non-Muslims that point to those Muslims and say, those are the real Muslims. It's like, you know, it's like, subhanAllah, man, this is difficult, man. This is difficult. But you have to remember, this is what we were given. You know, the reason why we can practice the kind of Islam that we practice with integrity and love and mercy and commitment to the prophetic way is because other people before us did that, right? Other people before us did that. They stayed away from this extreme, stayed away from that extreme and tried to stay. And we're just trying to give the same thing to our children. We're just trying to give the same thing to the generation that will come after us. Just trying to stay, just stay right here. Yusuf Qaradawi, he died. Sheikh Qaradawi died at the age of 94. And I remember reading some Qaradawi's books at the age of 96 when I was in Egypt. And one thing that Sheikh Qaradawi said, one of the signs that you're practicing the Islam of Wasatiyya, or a balanced Islam, some people have to say that you're too soft. And some people have to say that you're extreme. That's how you know you're balanced. You know, when some people say, oh, they're too hardcore, they're too extreme. You know, some people say, oh, they're too watered down, they're too soft, they accept everything. He said, that's how you know you're balanced. You have people, because both extremes are supposed to say, they're crazy. Those, I mean, they still actually do all of the praying, and covering, and making it more. They still do all that stuff. And you have some people that are like, you know, that they're too watered down, man. You know, they let non-Muslims in the masjid, you guys. You know what I'm saying? You know, come on. Yes.
Now, do you ever interact with people about it, or like?
No, I never met Sheikh Qaradawi. You know, by the time I was in Egypt, Sheikh Qaradawi couldn't come back to Egypt. You know, because of his activity with the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Sheikh Qaradawi, I think, was exiled from Egypt. I don't think he could come back to Egypt. But, you know, a lot of the students of Sheikh Qaradawi were still present at Al-Azhar. And, you know, Sheikh Qaradawi was an institution, man. He had that gift of being a prolific writer. You know, writing is torture, man. Writing is torture. Really, writing is torture. you know, see, speaking, you get so many, like when anybody speaks, we give them allowances and licenses because we all know how difficult it is to speak, right? Person, you know, like even as I'm speaking now, I'm sure there are probably some logical inconsistencies, probably some hyperbole, probably, you know, like, but I'm speaking, so it's like you guys have bought in, so you're indulging me. When people read your writing, they don't give you that same allowance. All of that is very clear. Oh, no, wait, you just said 3 pages ago. Then they put the footnote. What the hell is he talking about? See, yeah, this is how you treat writing. You grade it much more. That's why I always say, alhamdulillah, I'm a speaker, but writing is at a higher level in terms of precision, right? It's a higher level of you have to be very careful with your words, right? And people that write, they are willing to put their intellect on a platter and serve it to other people. Right, to be thrown in the garbage, tasted and treated like Gordon Ramsay. What is this? This is the worst piece of writing I've ever read in my life. So you have to be very brave to write. But people that do it and do it prodigiously, they do it. Their output is amazing. Chip Kamdawi is one of those people. They can just write book after book after book. I mean, his own, like, we just had a library of just Yusuf al-Qaradawi's books. It would probably fill up his whole joint. You know, he was the person that wrote a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he left a vast inheritance. You know, and that's, you know, now that I'm 40, you know, speakers help a lot of people, but the nature of their inheritance is different. Their inheritance is in actual people. Like people like may come to a class and say, you know, that person helped me gain a new understanding of my deen or helped me appreciate my Islam, and it gets passed on. But it's not the same kind of inheritance as leaving a library. That a person can actually pick up a book and say, you know, he wrote this. It's a different kind of inheritance. Yes.
Intention is so fundamental to how we practice our faith. Is there any guidance either in this or in other books of collected hadith that you've studied that provide guidance on the correction of imperfect or incomplete intention?
Yeah, I mean, you know, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ is always the first hadith of almost any collection. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ, actions are put by intent. But the second part of the hadith is, I think, what's instructive. فَمَنْ كَانَ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ فَمَنْ كَانَ هِجْرَتُهُ لِامْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا أَوْ أَرْضٍ يَنَالُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ لِمَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Whoever made hijrah for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, then his hijrah is for Allah and His Messenger. But whoever made hijrah to get married or to acquire some property, then his intention, his hijrah is for that which he migrated for. And there was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. And at some point, hijrah became an obligation, right? If you are Muslim, you have to come and join the Muslim community. Even if that means giving up a very comfortable situation. See, some people, they were very comfortable in Mecca. Some people were, you know, under siege, starving. Other people, maybe because they had juice, they had money, they had respect, they can kind of practice their Islam like, I'm Muslim, my tribe is not going to disown me, nobody's trying to kill me, it's cool, I'm Muslim and nobody's bothering me. Hijrah was much harder for those people because hijrah would mean giving up a very comfortable life. You know, they were probably like, I always imagine them listening to other companions like, we got to get out of here, they're trying to kill us. It ain't that bad. You got to get out of here. It ain't that bad. Y'all got to cool out, man, be patient. let the decision of Allah come now. Trying to get out of here because he got mansions. He got a big home, you know, big family, money, business interests in Mecca. I'm not trying to go anywhere. You see what I'm saying? So there was one companion that he was a believer. He had Iman, but he just would not make hijrah. His situation was just too comfortable. So then, women and men, man. There was a woman in Medina who heard about him, right? Because he was wealthy, handsome, and she was very beautiful. And she said, you know, if he moved to Medina, I would marry him. Somebody sent him word. There's a woman, very beautiful. She said, if you moved to Medina, she would marry you. Now he's interested. Really? Really? He said, nah, but I would, you know, I would have to start over financially. He was a business guy. He said, I would have to start over. So even if I married her, I'm not gonna marry her and be broke. So yeah, nah. So they went back and said, yeah, he would, but he doesn't want to start over financially. And she said, and I have property. I have land. It's arable. If he comes and he marries me, he can manage these lands and he can sell the produce that we produce on this land. They went back to him and said, and get this, she has land. But she has money. Then he said, well, time to go. That's it. You know what I mean? Beautiful. And she got money. Oh, time to go. so he made his choice. You know what I mean? You know, he left. And he married her. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was talking to them about hijrah. And look at the faith of the companions. He started to feel something in himself, like I wonder if I get this reward, because I really didn't make hijrah for the same thing that they made hijrah for. Those brothers and sisters, I really made hijrah to get married and get this money. That's what I was doing. So he went to the Prophet and asked him, will Allah still give me a reward for my hijrah? Prophet told him the hadith, right? Whatever you migrated for, that will be, if you migrated for Allah and His Messenger, you'll get the reward. If you didn't, then you have what you migrated for, right? They mentioned that after that, that man did everything he could to correct, meaning it was already done, it was done in a sense. He came to Medina for the reason that he came. But he was never like excommunicated or kicked out of the community. He didn't leave Islam. He just tried to walk a very straight line after that, right? So really, intention is corrected by walking a straight line after that. Meaning, if a person really, if somebody really just embraced Islam and get married, like I know people that, if you ask them, how did you become Muslim? Man, I'm sitting in Site 101, turn to my left, most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. She told me if I wanted to get what I had to become Muslim. I said, baby, that's no problem. That's how it happened. I said, baby, that's no problem. Look, I changed gods to be your man. Whatever you do. Whatever you need. Whatever you need. And then after a while, he starts feeling like, wait a minute, I kind of believe this, right? So then he starts asking himself, I'm actually Muslim now. Been in this for a few years, been married for a few years. But I didn't become Muslim because I was sincere. I became Muslim because I was in love with my wife. What do I do now? Practice Islam. That's what you do now. Practice Islam. Walk the street. Practice Islam. Right? So that's the way you just pick up from where you are and keep going. Practice Islam. There's a number of alhamdulillah, I guess I've been around for a long. There was a sister I saw, a friend of mine, she embraced Islam Man, look, I ain't gonna lie, look, we all adults here. I get a call on my telephone about 1:15 a.m. I don't even know what I was doing up. What is this? It's me. I'm like, God, it's 1:15, man. What are we doing here? Nothing comes before the guidance of Islam. Got a sister with me. She wants to embrace Islam. And she wants to get married. And she wants to get married right now. I'm like, you kidding? He like, yep. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, come over to my house. It's late. There's another brother live down the street. That would be the two witnesses. Yeah. They come to my house. I'm explaining to her about Islam, about marriage in Islam, telling her, you don't have to, this isn't, there's something in Islam called a wali. I am now acting as your wali. I would advise you against this. You just became Muslim. You just became Muslim. You're an adult woman, you can do what you want, but you don't have to, Now I'm doing this not within earshot of the brother. I'm just telling her, you don't have to look. She's like, no, I'm in love with him, and we're gonna get married. I want to marry him. I was like, you want to do this? So I'm explaining to her rights and mahar, and he's just sitting there, just happy as a clam. Just look at him. Right? They got married. They got married, and they were married for about 11 years, man. So they were married for about 11 years. Toward the end of their marriage, I think his relationship with Islam, he's still Muslim, but he started to, and her iman was, she was practicing at a very, very high level, and still is, mashallah. So it just, it's sometimes you may come in a certain way, and you know what I'm saying? So it's, you laugh. We said what? Yeah, Akhima, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of people don't like this, and a lot of people, I've gone to conferences where I had to not fight, but I had to say, look, we're talking about adults that let's face it, want to have a sexual relationship. Now we recognize this relationship is very consequential. This could be, right? This could be catastrophic. Children, bad things can happen. But the fact of the matter is that we have two adults standing in front of us that have consented to each other that they want to have a physical relationship. What are we going to do? You want me to tell them? What do you want me to tell them? Like some people think you should never, what do you want me to tell them? Send them away so they can what? Have an illicit sexual relationship? What do you want me to tell them? Now, what I normally do is I try to slow things down. But sometimes when the locomotive is out of the station, this is real Muslim community stuff. When the locomotive is out of the station, it's out of the station. Meaning, like, what do you want me to do? And that's why sometimes I think, now again, if this is somebody who comes from a Muslim family, it's gonna be a little different. I'm gonna say, look, I don't want your father killing me. I don't want your father popping on my doorstep with the pistol, man. You gave my daughter permission. Whoa, sir, hold on now. Maybe you haven't checked. I'm not the Grand Mufti of Chicago. She wanted to this is something she wanted to do. Now, she explained that she's Hanafi. She doesn't need any, male consent to get married. She wanted to do this. But don't kill me. Don't kill her either. You know what I mean? Don't kill her either. But I mean, sometimes I think like we cannot, I guess what I'm saying is that we cannot, word I'm looking for is babify, but we cannot infantilize grown people. These are grown people, man. They made the decision that they want to have a sexual relationship. Again, I can give them a pep talk, like, hey, be careful, be responsible. You know, make good decisions, think about your future. But ultimately the choice is theirs, man. You know, I mean, we're Muslims. We don't believe that the consent of a religious authority is necessary for marriage. You know, which is something that, you know, I realize that I'm like cutting off like 30% of my annual revenue by saying that. People ask me, I'm like, get you my wedding? I'm like, sure, you know. But you know, I always think, you don't need me. Okay, but I realize that to have somebody of religious standing present, there's baraka in it, and there's blessing, and you know, but any two upright witnesses can be a witness to a man. You don't have to have an imam or sheikh or so my point is, look, man, again, I don't want to be irresponsible, but I do think that in a sex positive culture, you got two young, this what they want. You know, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I get it. And by the way, I have a son and 2 daughters myself. If my son comes to me and just tells me, "Son, Dad, Mike, son, I'm married." What? What? Now, I'm gonna tell you something. True story. And this is when I knew Islam is real. When I was in the madrasa in Elgin, it was a white young man and a Desi woman. And they came in, they wanted to get married. And they put a lot of pressure on everybody, and the teachers were unwilling to do it, but they told them, you know, any two Muslim witnesses, you can get married. That's the position. We're not gonna be part of that. And so they went, they got married. Her father came in and was like, "How could you tell my daughter this?" And they were like, "It's the truth." You know, I mean, we advised her, do not do anything that opposes your dad. Like, don't do that. But the thing that really like shocked me was that he was angry, he was upset, but he honored the marriage. He was like, I gotta figure out a way to annul this marriage. And it wasn't like a court registered marriage. It was just a Shari'i marriage, but he respected it. He was like, oh. I was sitting there thinking, if that was me, man, I'd take my daughter, man, you ain't married. Married, I'd have came in, take dude, man, mush this face, man. When you going home, man? You're there. When you go with my wife, just stop playing. Get up. You know, they go and just pull off. He honored it. He was like, I gotta figure out a way to get this dissolved. I was like, you would just grab your daughter, just go in the car and just drive off. He's like, no, she's married. She's married. She's married. She's married. What can I do? She's married. We're trying to figure out how to, you know, and I think that couple stayed together. I think that couple is still together. So I don't know. You know, he was
trying to switch my hopes.
he was like, you know, I mean, so my point is like, yo, you know, it's important to look for the right things, to place the blame in the right place. I'm hoping with my own children that I would never do anything to them that they would feel comfortable marrying without my knowledge or without my consent. They would never feel comfortable eloping. Like, I want them to have an intrinsic sense, I cannot do this without my father. Like, I just couldn't, I could not do this without my father. I could not do it, but if they did, I would be like, probably like that father, like, what? Oh, so Mary, so how? So, oh my God. You know what I mean? Oh my God. But yeah, I was looking at him like, wow, that's piety. This is like, his daughter said he's not very practicing. And I mean, for me, that was piety, because I was taking my daughter, but you're not married, man, whatever. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you married, yeah, okay. Cock my gun, okay, husband, come on in. Yeah, that's your husband, man. That's your husband. But there was recently an article in the New Yorker about Muslims and secret marriages. The writer's name is Emma Green. She interviewed me. She didn't use anything from me. She interviewed me for about an hour. And then she sent me an article, check it out. I'm like, you didn't quote me one time in this joint, man. You know what I mean? I love the New Yorker. I would love to get quoted in New York. I was like, maybe she didn't quote me one time, man. She didn't quote me one time. She was asking me about secret marriages on college campuses. And I mentioned that, it's probably a gut check moment for parents. Because if you ask the parent, what do you think is worse? Two young Muslims just hooking up or getting married? What, a lot of them will say getting married because of how permanent it is and how it's real. And that we would rather our children just fornicate in college, just fornicate and don't tell us about it. I thought, that's you in trouble. I couldn't even understand why. Why would you? I mean, I think eloping and fornicating, it's like bad choice, right? But if you have to choose, I'd rather you elope than fornicate. If you had to choose. If you had to choose, I would be fornicate. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Beautiful religion, man. Marriage is a beautiful thing, man. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is beautiful. I'm married twice. Never been divorced. I'm different. Married twice, never been divorced. Married twice. Both times are beautiful. Both times beautiful. Some couples, they have, happy marriage, and they say, we're going through a rough patch. Me and my wife, we go through happy patches. We're going through a happy patch right now. We're going through a smooth patch. Some people, go through a rough patch. Look at, they go through a smooth patch. So the lady back to normal. We go through a smooth patch. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wal 'asr. إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. ما شاء الله. ما شاء الله. I don't know yet, but usually we do like a poll. We do like a poll and I ask people. At Ta'leef, they kind of come to me with suggestions. For this session, I just ask people, what do you want to read? And if I have the ability, if it's something that I can't teach, I'll just say like, I don't know anything about that. I can't teach that. But if it's something that I can teach, let's read it. This is a long-standing class. Man. I mean, even though, our numbers, we used to get like 40 people, 40, 50 people every night. We're full, something we're full. Now, mashallah, man, we just got the core, just the core people, just the core. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Come back, man. Come back. I don't understand. Where'd everybody go? Come back. But mashallah, we still got a good core, man. I'm open. I really want this to be, like, I just have a couple of guidelines for what we would read. I don't want it to be anything that is, I want it to be enjoyable. And I don't want it to be something that's demanding in like a, you have to follow the class. I missed last week's reading. I have to do the week before. I want it to be something each week you can come, even if you haven't come in 10 weeks prior, you can get something. There's an independent lesson that's being taught. Nothing that's kind of like, this kind of cumulative. If you didn't know week 1, we're in week 5, then you're lost. So I intentionally do things that there's not a lot of technical jargon. That's not what I intend for this space. I intend this just to be a weekly check-in, come kind of check your pulse. Here's something that hopefully inspires spiritually. Keep going. Try to get you to Friday, inshallah. Try to get you to Friday, inshallah. Maybe through Friday. Sometimes it's Friday khutbahs. What you might do, just try to get you to Friday. Like, I don't know, man, maybe that'll be I'll go down in history saying, man, I always like the light touches. Like they always say, when are we gonna start doing some deep hardcore? I mean, there are institutions and scholars for people who want deep hardcore, mashallah. But to have something that's accessible, enjoyable, place to come, kind of tap in weekly, just some nourishment, right? Not every meal is a feast, just a little something. I like that. Yeah, I always joke with my friends that like we're doing serious scholarship. I'm just a short order cook. Put this here, put this here. But maybe people get tired of my cooking, they'll come sit in your class. Bismillah. But I just want to be that short order cook. I think what we do well in these spaces is just people that are unfamiliar with their whole tradition, studying, just be comfortable, sit here, man, learn something, be comfortable and grow. And it's cool, man. If that's all I've ever added to the Chicagoland Muslim community, it's enough for me. Mashallah. It's enough. Let's pray more before we get out of something. Wonderful. Give us some hearts. Spiritual appetizers. It's appetizers.